Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be the second part for my series in which we talk all about printing digital papers for mini albums or scrapbooks. And in the previous part, which was the first part of the series, I already talked about what software I use for preparing my prints and also digitally designing my albums. And then I showed you what printer I use and gave you some recommendations on how to choose the perfect printer. So if you haven't watched this part yet, I would highly recommend you to do so. Because in the first part, I was also defining what I want my prints to be like, and this is not only important to choose the perfect printer, but it's also very important when it comes to choosing paper. So for today's video, I won't go through all these different aspects such as print size, paper weight, and feel of paper again. So really make sure to watch the first part of this series so that you get all the information about why I want my prints to be this way. And especially keep in mind that this is just what I want my prints to be like, so it might be different for you. And I actually based these aspects on the papers I like using when getting physical collections by different brands. And in my case, these are brands such as Echo Park, Simple Stories, or American Crafts. So I really like paper in a medium paper weight range, and then I want the feel of paper to be a little more rough and matte finish. And then of course I want good quality prints and accurate colors. And for me it is important that I'm able to print on the size A3 or even larger. So now let's just jump into choosing papers and have a look at all the different test prints I did. And I want to talk about three different paper types, which are first recycling paper, then copy paper or coated copy paper, and then last but not least, photo paper. And I really tested a lot of different papers from different brands, so I also had some brands send me some paper samples, but a lot of them are not as easy to get, especially if you're not a business owner. So I will just focus on the ones you can easily get and I really liked. And I also checked that these papers I will recommend at the end are actually available in more than just a few countries. So you may know that I'm from Germany, so I tested papers I could get here, but I definitely can recommend some papers you're most likely to get wherever you live. So I'm going to show you the results for 5 different papers, and I really hope that you can easily see the differences in this video. It is always a little tricky to film and really show you what the papers looks like, but I tried my best to film them in a way that you can tell the differences between those prints. But before showing you the results of my prints, I first want to have a look with you at the original paper. So what I mean by that is the paper printed by Echo Park. So I got the physical collection, which is the collection called Lost in Neverland by Echo Park. And then I did my prints with the digital collection of the same paper. So that's what the paper in the size 6 by 6 inches, so this is from the 6 by 6 inch paper pad by Echo Park, looks like. This is printed double-sided, so the back side is just this green solid paper. I'm not really sure if the green on the back adds anything to the print on the front, so I just wanted to show you that it is printed double-sided here. But yeah, that's what the print looks like, and to be honest, I never had such a close look at the Echo Park paper papers. But now with all the testing I did and having a closer look on the prints and comparing them, I have to say that this print by Echo Park is really not the best print, to be honest. So it doesn't look very sharp, and also I feel like you can't really see the details, especially the black details. And actually the same applies to paper by American Crafts and Simple Stories. They all look quite the same. The colors are also not very vibrant, and you can really see the structure of the paper. But that doesn't mean that it bothers me at all, because I feel like craft paper doesn't have to be super like vibrant and super sharp, because that actually adds to the charm of crafting paper, if that makes sense. But I just wanted to show you here and then compare it with the prints I did. And the first paper I tested is this recycling paper. And again, the reason for testing recycling paper first to me was that I really like the feel of recycling paper. So if I compare that to the EcoPark paper, I would say it feels very similar. It has this slightly rough feeling to it, and it really feels like crafting papers. But if I look at the print now, I have to say I don't really like how it turned out. So you can definitely see that there's a lot of these tiny dots on the print, and also the colors are very faded. You can tell that, especially if you compare that to the original EcoPark paper. Although I just want you to keep in mind what I said in the first part, and that's that we don't want to look so much at the colors, because colors is a different topic, and we will actually talk a lot about colors in the next part of the series when it is all about the print settings. But still, especially because of the white grain I got with this recycling paper, I would definitely choose the original EcoPack paper over recycling paper. And I also tested what a photo would look like printed on this paper. So that's the photo, and I think it's not super bad, but also not a very great photo here. So it might work if you like a vintage filter, because to me it looks a little bit vintage with the quality of the paper, and again, these like little lighter dots on the print. With that being said, I wouldn't recommend using recycling paper, and probably also not any other uncoated paper. I can't say that for sure, but I would assume that the results with other uncoated paper would be quite similar. At least with the inkjet printer I'm using, so it might be that you can get better results with a laser printer on recycling paper. But again, as said in my first part of this series, I wouldn't choose a laser printer, especially because the toner itself can be shiny and leave you with a more glossy finish. So as you can see, the only thing I still like about recycling paper is really the feel of the paper. But other than that, for the colors and for the quality and the price, it is not the best option. So let's have a look at the next paper option, which would be to now use a coated paper. And this is in general just copy paper. And the paper brand I used here is Original Color Copy Paper by Mondi. And I have to say, I really like the results on this paper. So as you might see already, you get a lot of details. So the quality is much better than the quality on the recycling paper. Colors is a different topic. So I'm not looking so much at the colors, but I'm really looking at the print and the sharpness and the resolution of the print. And you might be able to see that there are some like random white spots on this print. You can especially see them on the coat of Captain Hook. But they are definitely more noticeable in this clip. And sometimes I get a little more of those little dots, and sometimes I really have no dots at all on my prints with this paper. And to be honest, I'm not really sure if that has something to do with the paper or the settings or the ink working with this paper, but I'm not bothered by it at all, so I don't mind these like little white spots. And when I compare this print with the original EcoPack paper, what really stood out to me is the difference in the details. So especially if you look at the hook image or the eyes of the crocodile, you can really tell that the details are printed better on the color copy paper. Printing photos on the color copy paper definitely leaves you with like better results than printing them on the recycling paper, so you get more details. And I think this is not a bad photo print, but it definitely can get better. And because I really like the results on this coated copy paper, I also tried out a color copy paper by a different brand so that you have some options, especially if you're not able to get this brand, you might be able to get this second one because the results are almost identical. So the second color copy paper or copy paper I used here is by the brand Clairefontaine. I hope I pronounced that correctly. As you can see, it's also a just white coated copy paper, and it feels exactly the same, especially if you're using the same weight for the paper. And yeah, with the results, I would also say there are no differences at all. So you again get these like random white spots on the print here and there, but then also for the details, I think they are both really great, and you can really tell the especially the black details on the different images. When it comes to the feel of the paper, as I said, this copy paper is coated, so the coating is actually why the prints turn out to be really nice. And it also like feels a little smoother than the original EcoPark paper, but the difference is really not that big. So I had actually my boyfriend feel those two papers, and he could hardly tell the difference in the feel. Yeah, so it's a little smoother, but I still like the feeling of it. It doesn't feel completely like smooth and glossy. And what I would say is much more important than the feel of the paper is the look of the paper. And before I would think that because of the coating, you would get a slightly like glossier finish with a little bit of shine to it, but that's totally not the case. So with this print, you also get a beautiful matte finish. And that's exactly the same finish you would get with the original EcoPark or other brands' papers. And because I already made a whole album using this color copy photo paper, which is my Alice in Wonderland album, I can actually tell you that I really enjoyed working with this paper and that I'm very happy with the results of the prints in my album. And I already uploaded a project share of this album, so you can find it on my YouTube channel, and I will also link it in the top right corner right now. So overall, using copy paper, coated copy paper is a good option for printing your pen and papers, especially because you can get them in different sizes. So you could also get them in A3 as well as A3 plus size. And they are really not that expensive, but I will talk more about all the prices and the availabilities for those papers at the end of the video. But before we, of course, have to have a look at the third paper option, which is using photo papers. Now again, I was totally misinformed when it comes to photo papers. Because I would really think that there is no way that I'm printing my pen and papers on photo papers, because to my knowledge, photo paper is really just great for printing photos. And that's because when I thought of photo paper, I was also thinking of like glossy paper and then like very thick paper and just a completely different feel to craft paper. And the reason for that is probably that I always used to print my photos at photo printing companies. And these photo printing companies also offer a matte option for the photos, which I always used. But these matte photos are still not completely matte, but they do have a glossy finish to them. So yeah, I'm not really sure if I'm explaining it right or you know what I mean by that. But especially when it comes to the feel of those photo papers I had in mind, they are just completely different to craft paper. So they feel much thicker, and then they have a really like distinctive coating to them. So yeah, I wasn't even thinking of trying out using photo papers for printing pattern papers. But when doing my research, I actually noticed that some of other like creators or crafters are recommending using photo papers, and that's what actually got me into looking more into it. And then I actually saw that there are some crafts printed onto the package of the Canon matte photo paper, which really got me curious to try it out. And the Canon photo paper is also available in the size A3, which is perfect. And then for the weight of the paper, it is 170 grams, so just slightly different to the colored copy paper. And when I got it, the first thing I noticed is that it actually feels quite similar to the colored copy paper. And as I said, that's something I didn't expect at all. So I was really happy with the feel of this photo paper. And then once I printed out my test print, I was actually mind blown by the results. So as you can see, you can get a very nice print using this Canon photo paper. There are no more like these random white spots on here. The details are great, the colors are very vibrant, and it also looks very sharp and high quality. And even though I was super impressed by these results, I, to be honest, at first wasn't even sure if I like these results. And that's probably because they are so different to like the original Eco Park papers or other brands' papers which I'm used to work with when making my mini albums. But then again, asking someone who's not into crafting, he would be completely shocked that this is actually not the original printed paper by the brand. And after getting used to this beautiful print and actually using it in an album I'm currently making, I do have to say that I absolutely love these papers for making my albums. And that's especially because, as I said, I like the feeling of this paper because it's not like any different as the feeling of the copy paper, and it's just slightly different to the original craft paper by Eco Park. And then it also has a complete matte finish. So I really want to mention that here because I don't know, for some reason I used to think that if you want to have a very like vibrant print with a very high quality, then you most likely going to print on a more like glossy paper. But this print definitely has the matte finish I wanted to have, and it also has accurate colors, but again, I will talk more about colors in the next part. And then it is a very high quality and it's also, of course, a great paper for photo prints. It is a photo paper, so it totally makes sense that you're using this paper for photos as well. And I actually would say that it is very handy to use the same paper for the pattern papers I want to print as well as for the photos I want to print. But of course, there is also something I don't like so much about using this photo paper, and this is actually the price of it. So again, I will talk about the different prices later on in this video, but I just want to mention here that this is definitely something you have to keep in mind when choosing papers, and especially for the original Canon photo paper, they are quite expensive in my opinion. So yeah, but other than that, the colors, the quality, and the use for photos is really, really great. But because of the price, I was actually looking for another brand for photo papers, and one brand which was recommended on YouTube by other crafters as well is the brand Koala. And compared to the Canon matte photo paper, you can actually get Koala matte photo paper in different paper weights. So I got the one in 180 grams. And it is also available in the size A3, or for those of you who live in the United States, you can get them, I think, in the size 13 by 19 inches, so also in a larger format. And even though it's a lot cheaper than the Canon photo paper, the results are really similar. So you get these great printed paper results, and then also it feels quite the same. So yeah, I would definitely prefer the Koala photo paper over the Canon photo paper. However, there is something you need to keep in mind, and this again has something to do with the colors of the prints. But it's definitely a beautiful print and a great paper to use. So let's have a look how it compares to the original Eco Park paper. And I think you can really see the differences here, and I think they're quite huge. But again, I also totally get if you say like photo paper is just like not the style I'm looking for when crafting, because that's how I felt at first. But now I do have to say that I would prefer the photo paper over the original Eco Park paper when it comes to printing my own digital collections. So overall, I can definitely recommend to either choose a coated copy paper or a matte photo paper. And these are the paper brands I have tested and liked the most. And they are available in different paper weights and different paper sizes. The color copy original paper is available in a lot of different paper weights. So I just mentioned 160 and 200 grams here because this is in the medium weight paper range I like using. And these are the two options. And I have tried them both and they're both totally fine for me to work with. Of course, 200 grams is a little thicker and has more of this heavy cardstock feel. So yeah, it totally depends on what you prefer. And you can of course also get the color copy paper in smaller sizes like A4 size, but I just wrote down A3 and then I also wrote down SRA3, which is very close to the A3 plus size I mentioned you could use with your printer as well. And for the pen and paper sizes I use in my albums, this is actually a very nice format because as I will show you in the next video with the settings, when you're printing on copy paper with a Canon printer and you want to print borderless, it might reduce the quality of the print. So because of the border on the A3 size, I cannot fit an 8 by 8 inch paper right next to a 4 by 6 inch paper, for example. But with the SRA3, I can actually do that because I have more than 12 inches in in the width of the paper, and then for the length I have around, I think, 17 something. So I can definitely also go with another 8 by 8 inch paper, or I can even place two 6 by 6 inch papers next to each other. And for the color copy paper, I also want to mention here that I checked for the availability in other countries, and it looks like that you can actually get it in different countries. So make sure to check it out. I really think it's a great paper. For the Clairefontaine paper, it is exactly the same. You can get it in 160 and 200 grams, and then it's also available in those larger sizes. And then for the Canon matte photo paper, you can only get it in 170 grams, which is totally fine to me because this is a paper weight I like using. And then for me, it was available only in the size A3, but I had another look and I actually saw that if you're living in the United States, then you can get it in 13 by 19 inches. I'm not sure if you can also get it in the A3 size, but yeah, it might be that depending on where you live, you can just get the one or the other. And yeah, to be honest, I would really love the 13 by 19 inch format, but as I said, I could just get it in the size A3. And 13 by 19 inches is actually the same as A3 plus size, so this would work perfect with the printer I recommend. Another thing to note with the Canon matte photo paper is that it's only available one-sided, so you can just print on one side, which is totally fine for me because I would always just print one side and then glue my paper onto the base, which is cardstock. So yeah, that's totally fine, but I just want to mention that here in case you want to use it for other crafts. And then, as I said, for the koala photo paper, you also have different options for the paper weight. I think it's also available in 240 grams and then I think 145 or something. But to me, the paper weight I like the most for the koala photo paper is 180 grams. And it is available in A3, 11 by 17 and 13 by 19 inches. So let's have a closer look at the price differences for those paper options. And of course, I can just tell you the prices based on the prices I found in German online shops. But even here, of course, I could find different prices, and sometimes they're on sale and sometimes they're not. So yeah, you definitely have to make sure to check for the prices yourself. And then keep in mind that these paper brands sell their papers in different packages. So for example, for the color copy paper, you will get a package with 250 sheets. And then for the Canon photo paper, you only get packages with, I think, 40 sheets in this larger format. So that's why I will talk about the prices per sheet, and I actually will only talk about the prices for the A3 size because all of those 4 brands are available in A3. And then, as you can see, for the color copy original, I chose 160-gram paper, and here we are at a price of 5 to 10 cents. And I think that's a really good price for this high quality copy paper. So yeah, that's definitely on the cheaper range, and the same applies to the Clairefontaine paper. So it's actually, yeah, almost the same price. There might be a little difference here and there according to where you buy it again, but yeah, it's very similar. So those 2 papers are definitely the cheaper options. Now the next option is the Canon matte photo paper, and here we are at a price of 50 to 70 cents per sheet in A3 170 grams. And then for the koala photo paper in the size A3, I actually only could find it for purchase on Amazon. So yeah, it is 23 cents currently there for a sheet in the size A3 and 180 grams. So of course, these prices can only give you an idea of what the unprinted paper costs. And then of course you have to add the price for the print per sheet as well if you really want to know what it costs to print your own pattern papers. And that definitely is something I will cover in this series as well. So this will be part of the last part of this YouTube series. So stay tuned for that, because I think it might be surprising to you how much it costs to print your own papers. Now I want to end this video for today by showing you some other prints I did on these different kind of papers. And that's to give you an idea of how differently colors can be printed, and why it is important to have the correct settings when printing pattern papers and photos at home, and how the settings for colors really can make a big difference for your prints. So make sure to join me for the next part of the series, in which we talk all about settings. And as always, if you liked watching today's video, I would really love to get your feedback in the comments down below, and also make sure to subscribe to my channel so that you'd never miss a video in the future. With that being said, I hope you're having a great day, and I would love to see you in my next video. Bye!